Sure, the Yankees are strong. Tampa's strong. Boston, unknown. We don't know who their manager is. We don't know the direction they're taking. We don't know if they're going to have Mookie Betts. So right now I got to not include Boston. Toronto, at least a year away probably, but improved. But Tampa and the Yankees in the East. In the Central, where like the graveyard of baseball, you got the Twins who are definitely a factor. I think the White Sox, I've predicted them to win the division. Okay, but short of that, Detroit, no. Kansas City, no. I think Cleveland, no. The American League West, Oakland, certainly strong, always. Houston, I think, still a great club. Texas, improved. California, Anaheim, excuse me. Boy, that goes back to the 70s, calling the California Angels, huh? But, I mean, you take a look at all these teams and come up with 10 strong teams. I don't think you can do it. And I even talk about the Cubs, Phil Chappie. I think the Cubs could be. But the National League is going to be an interesting situation, I think, all year. I think the divisions are up for grabs. I don't think it's a slam dunk that the Dodgers win the West. I think Arizona challenges there. Boy, that's a discussion for another day. What's going on in Houston this week? Well, yesterday they interviewed Dusty Baker. Today they're interviewing Eduardo Perez. Perez, son of Hall of Famer Tony Perez. He was the Astros bench coach in 2013. Played 13 years in the major leagues with various clubs. He has managed for the Colombian national team. He's 50 years of age, lives in Miami, a host on MLB Radio, morning show. I want to know who's the friggin' embarrassment, Phil Chaplin. The Mets. I got to go there, man. The thing about the Mets, okay, I'm looking at upside. Now, I know the bullpen has been not good, but it's not for lack of ability and talent. They got to get a manager. Okay, let's get a manager in there with experience. Oh, he's talking about the Cubs. I'm going back to the Mets. The Mets, give me a manager with major league experience who can be a settling force on the bullpen, on the starting rotation, on that lineup. That lineup is incredible. I like Nemo at the top of that order. I like Alonso. I like Cespedes healthy. J.D. Davis. I haven't even mentioned their shortstop. I haven't mentioned McNeil, but I just did. They can hit. They can pitch. The Cubs, yeah, okay. So what if they trade Chris Bryant? Phil Chaplin, who are we going to get for Chris Bryant? Who are we dealing with? I've just said earlier, I think Atlanta's crazy not to go after Nolan Arenado. But the Cubs have a lot of talent on that team. Look, I think their closer situation, I think it's going to be better this year. A year there, settled in. I think the starting pitching is going to be okay. Yeah, Phil, I already talked about the Diamondbacks. I agree with you. I think the D-backs are in. They could win the National League West. I tell you what, you let Walker Buehler have an injury, and that Dodger pitching staff doesn't look nearly as good, does it? The Diamondbacks, I love what they've done. I love what they've done with their roster. I love what the Diamondbacks have done with their pitching. I love what they've done in the bullpen. I really like what the Diamondbacks have done. And we're going to have a kickoff show later as we get into spring training. We're going to go through who I think are the contenders and the pretenders and break it down for you, both fantasy and reality. But right now in January, there are a lot of things that could still take place. I think it's a little premature on my part to do that now. But the Astros, they're going to name a manager pretty soon. Their owner has said by February 3rd. It could be sooner. I want to talk about the Cardinals for just a moment. A couple of news stories that I've seen come out on the Cardinals. Get your thoughts on this, chat room. Here we go. The Cardinals have indicated that Matt Carpenter, Matt Carpenter will be the team's starting third baseman for the 2020 season, despite the horrendous year he had in 2019. 2019 saw him with a 226 average, 15 home runs. He signed this 2-year, $39 million deal last April, and it looks like garbage, doesn't it? Now, in 2018, before the juice ball, he hit 36 homers, was an MVP candidate, but he had a lower back strain, an injured foot, and that didn't help matters as a 33-year-old last year. Now he's 34, working on his approach, trying to hit fewer fly balls, swing, and fewer pitchers outside the zone. I think he's a great discount in fantasy drafts. I think he's an under-the-radar value pick on draft day. If that back is healthy, we'll find out in spring training. Then I think Matt Carpenter is a steal. Lenny mentioned Harrison Bader this morning. Another article I read out of Keith Hernandez is that Bader is confident he'll be the starting center fielder in 2020. Quoting him, "I'm the starting center fielder. It's my position. I'm going to take it, and there's no sense talking about it. I'm looking forward to showing up day one, guns blazing, and ready to go." End of quote. Wow, I like it. 25-year-old Harrison Bader getting cocky and confident early on, but look at what he did in 2019 with the juice ball. He hit a 205, 12 homers, 11 stolen bases, demoted to the minors in late July. So despite Bader's overwhelming confidence in himself, President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak envisions center field and left field as open tryouts this spring. Dylan Carlson, remember that name, Dylan Carlson. I like him late in drafts. A first-round pick in 2016 will be Bader's primary competition in center field. And so, Lenny, I'm going to say that Wong wins the bet. I'm going to say Bader's in the minors by mid-year. And look out for Dylan Carlson, who I have followed in the minor leagues. I think he's a sneaky draft pick in this year's fantasy drafts. If he's available late, I think he's worth a flyer on. Dylan Carlson, first-round pick in 2016 for the Cardinals. Now, Lenny mentioned Pedro Strop this morning. Pedro Strop, formerly Chicago Cub great. Really remember that, Chappie? Pedro Strop, who cannot wear a ball cap straight. The Marlins, the Cubs, the Rangers, and the Brewers, they're all believed to be interested in Pedro Strop. Now, last year he had a down year, almost a 5 ERA, 4.97, 49 strikeouts in 41 2/3 innings. He did have 10 saves. He has closed out games for the Cubbies, 23 of them over the last 2 years. And due to injuries to Brandon Morrow, he had that role. Now with Craig Kimbrell entrenched as the ninth inning guy, and I think Kimbrell's going to have a great year in Chicago. Staying in Chicago is probably not the most ideal situation for his value. If he moves to Miami, and Lenny talked about this morning, that would give him the best chance for saves. And he's going to get that opportunity with whatever team. Any major league team is going to win 50 or 55 games, no matter how bad they are. And if he saved half of those, 25 to 27 saves, Pedro Strop could be a great value late round in fantasy drafts. I agree with the legend. And I don't draft closers early. Pedro Strop is someone I would probably draft late to make sure I had a closer on my team. And one more player this morning. It doesn't take long. I tell you what, it takes longer than you think. I had like 5 stories to cover, and here it is. It's almost been in 30 minutes into the show. Wow. But there's an interesting pitcher in Minnesota. Now, we know they've added Josh Donaldson, and we know they have a lot of bats, and we know they're going to probably lead the major leagues in home runs. Probably. But they got a pitching prospect, Brusdar Graterol. He pitches in the bullpen last year. Throws smoke, total smoke. Over 100 miles an hour. 21-year-old Venezuelan. He's listed in the MLB pipeline as their number 3 prospect and number 53 in all of baseball. He appeared in 10 games last year for the Twins. He had a .466 ERA, 10 strikeouts in 9 2/3 innings. Now, however, he had a clunker. He gave up 3 earned runs to Cleveland and got no outs, which bloats that ERA to .466. Take away that game at Cleveland, and he posted a 1.69 ERA, including a 12-to-1 K-to-walk ratio, which also include a shutdown inning against the Yankees in the ALDS at age 20. I don't know about you, but I like hard-throwing young pitchers. He had a 1.92 ERA and a 0.98 whip in 61 minor league innings, 52 with AA, 5 1/3 with AAA, and 3 innings in the Gulf Coast Rookie League. He probably needs some time to develop. The Twins are talking about putting him in the rotation. He could be a frontline starter for Minnesota. Probably not as a 21-year-old. I look for him to be in the bullpen again this year, but with the kind of electric stuff he has, he could close. It would not shock me if Graterol was the closer. It will not surprise me if next year he's in the rotation. So let's keep our eye on Brusdar Graterol for Minnesota. One of the many players I think you need to keep your eye on. So a look at some players this morning. I want to thank Andrea, Clarona, Doug, Lenny, NYC, Phil Chaplin, Rotorius, Timothy Hooker, the 3 amigos who are guests in the guest chat room. Tonight, we got some shows for you. I need to talk to my partner to make sure we're good on times. I've had a little business conflict come up, Chappie. But we are planning to do shows tonight. Chappie's going to be on at 7. We've got hopefully we're going to be able to do a show together tonight. I'm going to call you or text you later this afternoon, Chappie, making sure I'll let you know my times. But I've got some material ready. We'll talk about that later. But be tuned in tonight for the shows that are yet to come. Lenny did a great job this morning. I'll be back with you Thursday morning. Until then, keep looking out for Nolan Arenado. I want you to listen to Phil Chaplin's show tonight. Me and Chappie should be on too. So it's a great show lineup on the network. And I'll look for you Thursday morning. This is Arnie, and we'll be seeing you soon on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.